I think that was a very long and confusing introduction. It must be very confusing to a lot of people. As my career in the middle of the last century, had to really I don't want to use the word struggle, but it had to meander quite a bit before it could find satisfactory and productive levels of professional performance. I Prayoga was kind enough to invite me a few weeks ago here to look at the setup. The research director here happens to be my young colleague who worked with me for his PhD at the Malya Research Foundation. And I was very touched and also in a way intrigued by the approach in this place for education. Very uncommon because it is a very unique attempt, as it were, to combine science as a theme for the education, to educate the educators, the future educators. And that is indeed a great challenge. So, being a novice into this conceptual framework, I thought I must do a little bit of a reading. And you won't believe it, I think when I just looked for the first few references, one of the references I caught was science and education. The state in which science and education is today globally facing challenges was addressed by a very famous educationist from Norway by name Marcus Lindholm. He published an extraordinary review in the journal Science Education. There is a separate journal for that. I think he published this in the year 2018. And what I found very remarkable and striking in this review, in fact, I would recommend that most faculty and even students should really make that a subject of study. It is a reference with quite a number of cross-references where you can get very valuable information. Certainly, this is not the moment or occasion or the time for me to go into great detail of it, but I thought I will summarize the contents of that, which is so much relevant to this institution, not only to this institution, but if this country want to bring science to a level of what is happening in the best of scientific centers, and India blaze a trail, the nuggets of wisdom, nuggets of experience in science education are really consolidated in this review. So what I have done is summarize my reading of this review, which may be relevant to most of us here, and I will read it out. Deep curiosity is an essential factor as a driving force for societal and scientific growth. Curiosity. In fact, today in one of the presentations, I saw the word curiosity at not by any design, but by accident as a third or fourth or fifth in that slide. I think if one has to be very honest, you have to put curiosity at the very top about science when you talk about research, original research, creative contributions and other things. It is a property, it is a quality that the human species has to a degree that the advancement of the human society today through science and technology, if it has reached this, curiosity is at the very base, it is the foundation. To maintain its well-being and development throughout childhood in science education is an urgent task. It's a very urgent task. In preschool, curiosity must be nourished by means of maximism, which encourages children to inquire and wonder. Maximism essentially means wide with imagination and excess of items. Nature naturally provides it. In any environment where the child is growing, all these things are available for the child. A benefit of this is friendship with natural surroundings. This in turn constitutes the foundation for acquiring facts at school. In other words, in the preschool stage, this exposure to numerous things, almost kaleidoscopic in nature, lays the foundation for a lifelong curiosity to continue and influence all activities related to education and science. In pre-puberty, curiosity should come into focus by learning about the diversity of the world based on facts and terms. Finally, emotive friendships and a basis of facts and clear-cut knowledge are the suitable substrates for deep epistemic curiosity and personal understanding of sciences. In fact, today, going through some of the exhibits, I could see it has kindled in some projects, I guess I could see interdisciplinary across several disciplines relevant to the small projects they have undertaken. This should dominate during the years of adolescence and high school age. This means translation of the naive nature friendship to pre-puberty nature knowledge. I am sure you understand what I mean by this. This means the translation of the nature friendship, which awareness I think you acquire in childhood, preschool stage, and a very young person, to native knowledge. Then during adolescence, it matures into nature science. The child is thus equipped with established terms and concepts, with an inquiring mind ready to begin a bold search for new insights and truths. This happens already when the child reaches the pre-puberty stage, preparedness. These constitute the foundation for any science, from maximism to fact-based knowledge, and to science demonstrates a pathway to maintain the joy of learning and deep curiosity throughout the lifespan. This is something that has to be sustained. Knowledge creates confidence. Science creates doubt. Here is a contradiction. I think we have to really very deeply understand this. Science creates doubt. Science rests on facts, but permanently doubts its own findings and models. If in science we have to achieve the levels of creativity and new vistas, in the functioning of the nature, this we have to accept. Whereas science rests on facts, with great effort, rigor, and hard work, science gathers facts, certainly. I think it is based on that. But science always doubts. We should not lose that quality of science. That has to be built in even at the stage at which we are really exposing these youngsters for science. And thus science education must have the personal journey of discovery as a goal. Because constantly, when you get doubts, you have to strive and probe and sweat actually to get phenomena established with strong evidence. But I think this is a very important thing because it arises from doubt. Once you have achieved that, then there is another set of things which bother you to really go further. But that is progress. This has been very beautifully summarized by Richard Dawkins, a British evolutionary biologist who is the author of Public Understanding of Science, who is in the Oxford University. He said it very beautifully. He said, science is the poetry of reality. Science is the poet of reality. This must be at the core of any science education. It reflects the experience of the independent and mature self, where curiosity is not merely a pale memory from the lost childhood. I think this is the tragedy in this country. I think when the child is at a stage in the preschool stage, to get exposed and really build it on a beautiful framework that is lost. Not merely a pale memory from a lost childhood, but the impetus for reflection, science and knowledge in the intellect of the adult. It is very important that you really pay attention to preservation of all this. I think this subject matter which I tried to summarize in these few words. If one looks at the very extensive review a person has written, Marcus uh, Marcus Lindholm from Norway. He was a science teacher for a long time in a high school, very long time. Things were bothering him about these fundamental issues in science teaching, and he followed up some of the students who passed out of his system in adulthood. Some of them became scientists, some of them others, and also he made a very general, incisive, in-depth study of relationship to the kind of education you give and science education you give, they get and what they become. Or the education given in science in the school level and what happens to them later, and collected a lot of information and wrote this. In fact, I would suggest that anyone interested in this field should read this. There's a very good reference. I thought, this we should keep in mind. Even the children who come here from various disciplines, we should, they should have unquenching curiosity about everything that they do. If they are dealing with, say, 10 substances, reagents, apparatus, subjects, maybe anything, but that curiosity questions why, how must really be satisfied. I think in our methods of teaching, in our methods of instruction, in our methods of interaction with these youngsters should really elicit the suppressed curiosity. We don't encourage that much. I think because we can't answer a lot of times. But if you cannot answer, there is always a way to really seek for it and go as near as you can with this. Because science, as I said, is one which always doubts. It has proof today for a phenomena, but it takes it, it accepts it publishes it. It also gets technology out of it, but then it also doubts, because there are other steps, there are other things which have to explain it. That is why Dawkins puts it that science is the poetry of reality. When you write a poem, you write it with a feeling, with a complex set of feelings. So I think these few words, I will make this review available, and if it's necessary, I will even present it in its entirety. I think we should keep our goals for getting the objectives fulfilled in this place must have a very sound foundation in terms of this. In fact, in this I also found there are avenues indicated that we can draw from the traditional system of education in our land, where we make children at very young stage be aware of a lot of things by group activities in terms of recitation, in terms of reproducing what they learned at home or during events or in daily prayers. Many things are very conducive because the memory part of it gets built, but then we have not built sufficient curiosity as a prerequisite for scientific activity. With these few words, I share my joy today being here and given the opportunity to witness what is going to be a very blaze-trailing activity, the nucleus of which has been put together by a group of very, very dedicated people headed by Mr. Nagaraj. Thank you.